What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another highly combustible reaction. We're jumping into something. America's living abroad. First time you realize America really messed you up. Part 1 of TikTok challenge. We have seen another one of these, though, for sure. If you guys enjoy, get over, show TikTok news some love. Let's jump in. Let's check it out together. Let's see what we got. We've already talked about it several times. I am an American living outside of America for almost 14 years now. It takes getting out to be able to see some things. So there are some people that really, we get a culture shock when we do travel. We're like, what the, like my whole world was upside down. My whole world changed because I saw that there were other countries. Guess what? It wasn't like people hated you. It wasn't like anybody went out of their way to start any drama. None of that. Like, it was not what the media made out certain countries to be. So I've definitely learned a lot, seen a lot. Let's jump in. Let's see what other people learned on their first trip abroad. Let's go.
If you're an American currently living abroad, what is one time that made you realize that America really...
So I've been living in New Zealand for the last 4 years, and at work there was an American flag, and I jokingly went and put my hand over my heart and said the Pledge of Allegiance, and everyone was kind of like, what is that? And I was like, oh, it's a Pledge of Allegiance. So basically, growing up every day at school at like 9 o'clock or whatever, we would all stand up and the whole class would recite the Pledge of Allegiance with our hands over our hearts to the American flag in the corner of the room. And my coworkers were like, what? You know, when you say it out loud, it sounds a bit culty.
If you're an American...
It does kind of sound a bit culty, but yes, we used to do that. And when we were coming up, you would do that and then say a prayer.
Currently living abroad, what is one time that made you realize that America really...
So when I was in high school, I was a lifeguard, and during my lifeguard training, they taught us that before we even administer first aid or CPR, we had to ask for consent to avoid being sued. Now fast...
How exactly does one get consent from somebody who's potentially unconscious? Just like take the fingerprint? But that sounds like the dumbest rule ever. Hey, I know you can't hear me or move, but can I please bring you back to life? What the What?
Fast forward a couple of years, and I'm in London as a waitress, and my company sends me to go do CPR training. And while I'm there, they go over the same stuff that I learned in the States, but I notice that they're completely glossing over this one particular area. So I raise my hand and I ask, what are the laws here? Like, how do you avoid being sued if something goes wrong? To which every single person in the room starts laughing.
We probably have the most lawsuits out of every country.
Right. Yeah, no one here is going to sue you for trying to save their life.
An American currently living
That's some shit that would go down in America, though. Sad but true.
abroad, what is one time that made you realize that America really
So in the U.S., I regularly get pneumonia. Sometimes I get like pneumonia and bronchitis.
I mean, when I was in America, big no kiddings. Like, I used to get pneumonia several times a year.
I regularly get pneumonia. Sometimes I get like pneumonia and bronchitis, but pretty much all, you know, like clockwork, I get it. I had just moved to Scotland for my master's, and I was coming down with a respiratory infection like I do every year. It was just the early onsets of pneumonia, but like normally I wait to the point of where I'm like literally unable to breathe before I go to the doctor because it's expensive in the US. Well, here I was like, you know what, I'm here. I paid for the NHS. Let me go get it. Saw a doctor, gave me a prescription. I went to the pharmacy to pick up my medication, something that I literally would not be able to afford with my minimum wage job and being a full-time student. They gave it to me for free because it was necessary, and I almost cried in the pharmacy. Like, tears are welling in my eyes.
is one time that made you realize that America really messed you up?
Okay, so I live in New York now, but I used to live in England, and one time I was out at this bar with my friends, and these two cops walked by. And one of my friends was like, oh, I wonder why there are cops out right now. And I looked at the cops, and I got really confused, and I was like, those are cops? And my friends were like, yeah. And I was like, they don't have guns. And everyone was like, why would they have guns? They were like so aghast at that question. And I was realized in that moment that, and learned that guns, there are so few guns in the UK, and it's such not an issue that like the everyday cop does not carry a gun. And I was just, there are houses in America that have seen more guns in them than a fresh vegetable.
He's not lying there. 100% more houses in America have seen guns than fresh vegetables.
It blew my fucking mind. I think about it all the time. I hate guns so much. I hate guns so much.
If you're an American currently living abroad, what is one time that made you realize that America really...
In the US, I could not let my 11-year-old son go outside and play by himself. Someone would call the cops or something would legitimately happen to him, and so there was no way. And when I moved to Germany, my husband, who's a German national, suggested that he go outside and play by himself because we would not have to worry.
That's something we've talked to the Netherlandians about too. Like, seriously, it's an issue. I've done the research, and in like 10 years, 6.1 million Americans disappeared. A lot of them children. Like, just vanished. Nobody knows where they went. It makes no sense. We're worried about a lot of smaller numbers than that. Why is nobody worried about that? The only people that seem to miss those people are their families and things like that. No one seems to give a damn about lowering that number at all. It's a legit thing. You can't go outside and play by yourself in certain places because you will get snatched up. Me and both of my brothers, all three of us, have at different times been asked to get into somebody's car in California. Luckily, our parents were smart enough to train us exactly what to do in a situation like that. We had passwords and all kinds of things that somebody would have to know before you ever got into a car with them. Not getting into a car with a random ass stranger. Like, that's how big of a worry it is. People will call the police on you if they see you letting your kids play unattended in the yard. Hell, you'd be lucky if you don't get child abuse or neglect or something like that slapped on you.
If you're an American currently living abroad, what is one time that made you realize that America really...
So I didn't realize this until I moved abroad, but Americans have a very strange concept of freedom. Like, when you're growing up, you're always told that America is such an amazing place and, you know, it's the land of the free, home of the brave, but,
Check and check.
like,
and
I
check.
keep hearing these criticisms from people like, oh, yeah, but America has the most freedom. Wow, yeah, freedom. I mean, there may be a few exceptions or nuances, but in the UK, you're still free. Like, that is the biggest lie that Americans are ever told, that there aren't other free places. Like, I don't understand. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I feel like the concept is kind of destroying American democracy. How ironic. Like, they need to kind of understand that they need to work on things to make themselves better and more free for their citizens.
American currently living abroad, what is one time that made you realize that America really messed you up?
Okay, so I'm not currently living abroad, but I did live in Australia for a few months. And one night while I was there, I got a little bit too crazy and I ended up on public transportation without a phone. And I had to find my way back to my apartment and I got lost. And while I got off the tram to get onto a different tram to take me home, a middle-aged gentleman came up to me and I immediately went into attack mode and I was like going to kill him. And he was like, no, I was just going to tell you which tram to take to get back to Preston. And that was when I realized that in Australia, I didn't need to be afraid. Like, granted, take precautions, but I didn't need to be afraid of every man. But in America, I still am.
If you're an American currently living abroad, what is one time that made you realize that America...
So I don't live abroad anymore, but for half of 2018, I lived in Germany, and I have so many stories. The town that I lived in had like a main plaza area, and there was a cafe in that plaza, so a couple of my other American friends and I decided to try it out one day, and there was a construction site nearby. We heard a really loud bang, and, you know, we kind of assumed that someone had fired a gun, and so we, ducked for cover, and then we were looking around frantically, trying to find, a place that we could run to or hide to get out of the situation, and then we realized that no one had shot a gun. No, it was a loud bang from the construction site. That's it. That's all it was. We'd been speaking in English, and we all have really obvious American accents, so all the Germans around us gave us these really sad looks, like, oh, these poor, poor Americans.
Like we're from Haiti or something. Hey, it's a big thing. It's a serious thing. We don't get taught shit about what is out there. You see certain places, you see certain kinds of tourist type things to do. Go on a cruise to another country. Go down to Mexico. Go up to Canada. Like the nearby, keep you at home type places. But you still don't learn shit. You just know that those places exist because they're close to you. A lot of Americans can't even point out countries on a world map, which is terrifying. That's a horrifying thought, that people don't even know anything about the world that you live in. That's like some M. Night Shyamalan village shit. Like, you're living way in the past when you got all this information. One day you'll step outside of the box and be like, holy shit, this world was big and huge, and there's a lot of things in it. And that's what happens to us when we travel. We say, what the hell is really going on here? America can never learn and get better because they don't teach us what we do wrong in the first place. They don't teach you the reality of the situation. They want you to think that, oh, this country is our enemy, and this country is our enemy, and this country, if you go there, you're going to have problems. Never once. I've been to 16 different countries, and never once have I ever had a problem with anybody. I think it's all in the traveler.
American currently living abroad, what is one time that made you realize that America really messed you?
Okay, so I moved to Sweden. And when I got here, I wasn't feeling too well, so I went to the doctor, and the doctor recommended that I get an EKG, an electrocardiogram. Now, instead of worrying about my health, my first reaction was, I'm sorry, I don't know if I can get one of those, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford it. And this sweet little man, this sweet, amazing doctor goes, did you not pay the, like, $20 when you got here? I ended up getting a a regular EKG, a 24-hour long EKG, a blood test, and a freaking checkup for $20. Best part of this entire situation is that I am getting better and I am getting the medical attention I need without going broke.
What is one time that made you realize
Damn
that
it,
America
that pisses
really...
you off. It really pisses me off that our healthcare is so money focused that you don't even know if they really have your best interests in mind anymore. Why is it that the pharmaceutical companies can come over my television screen and tell me if I think, you talk about making everybody paranoid schizophrenics. Oh, if you have these symptoms, this might be this problem. If you think this could be for you, contact your doctor today. Why the fuck is that even legal? Wouldn't it be something that my doctor would tell me about? That has never made sense to me. I don't know. Everything's about money. People going on cruises and shit because of issuing out certain pharmaceuticals. People getting cash in pocket because of certain doctor treatments. At what point is your doctor more focused on the fucking money than they are on your health care? That's where my mind is at with it.
Messed you up.
I pride myself on being an American. I didn't make it out before COVID. But I went to Norway. And I fell in love with Norway, read about it, researched it, and I was like, I've got to visit first. And I only went for a week, and it was for the Infernal Metal Festival. And for the first time in my life, I was actually called an American. They didn't assume where I was from. And there was this beautiful Norwegian elder, and she says, God påske. And I said, Beklagar, jeg snakker litt norsk. And I said, basically, she said, Happy Easter. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't speak a lot of Norwegian. And she goes, oh, you're an American. And she didn't worry about her purse. She didn't look at me sideways. And I cried. I cried when I left because for the first time, I was able to be just an American. I didn't even hardly drink, didn't do anything crazy.
If you're an American currently living abroad, what is one time that made you realize that America really...
So during the first lockdown, we have an elderly neighbor and we would go and check in on her every once in a while and like get her groceries if she needed. And progressively, she started not be able to breathe very well. And we knew it wasn't COVID because she had it before. But like at one point, it was like she couldn't even get to the door without like literally not being able to breathe and having to sit down. So my partner decided that we needed to call an ambulance for her and get her to the hospital pronto. And when he told me that he was going to call an ambulance, the first thing that I said was, are you sure? Can she afford an ambulance? Like we could just drive her. And it wasn't until my partner looked at me like, and that it clicked that, oh, that's not a worry here. And then I went upstairs and cried because it really smacked me in the face that as Americans, we are conditioned to not worry about someone's health first,
We're conditioned
but to worry about whether or not
money.
they can financially afford to see a doctor and get help.
An American currently living abroad, what is one time that made you realize that America really messed you?
So I moved to Germany in 2018 as a study abroad student, and I had a nice apartment that was on the ground floor with a nice patio, a big door that opened that led to the patio. And I was minding my own business in bed one day. The door was wide open. I had my noise-canceling headphones on, and I heard these really loud banging noises coming from outside that weren't very far. And I'm like, that's not a firework or a firecracker. It can't be. I freak out because as an American, I'm like, I'm about to get shot. Somebody is shooting up all of the student apartments right now. So I call all of my friends and I'm like, did you hear that? Am I crazy? Do we need to call the police and whatever? And they're like, I don't know, but yeah, maybe call your boyfriend who's German and like ask him. So I call my boyfriend and I'm like, watching, we just heard this stuff, like what's going on? And he's like, not to worry. Here in Germany, we don't have shooters. Those are probably just firecrackers. And I'm just like, I'm damaged. Like we are all damaged and freaking out about freaking firecrackers. We think we're going to get shot up.
What is one time that made you realize that America really messed you up?
Hey, I live in Ireland and I've lived most of my adult life here. I moved to Ireland in 1995. My teenage daughter was born here many years ago, and when she was born, I spent 2 nights in hospital before she was born. I had an emergency cesarean section, and then I spent a further 6 nights afterwards. The total cost to me was $0. I kept asking them, like, are you sure no one wants my credit card? Like, do you want my details so you can send me the bill? And they would just like laugh, like, oh, you're American. There's no bill. So 8 nights in hospital, emergency procedure, $0 bill.
American currently living.
You see what most of the Americans are shocked about is the healthcare system. Because when you're there, it's completely normal that everything costs you an arm and a leg. It's completely normal that you would have to ask yourself, can I afford this procedure? Hell, coming up, there was a time where mom and dad's insurance were running out. And I had to go get a whole bunch of root canals in one sitting. Because otherwise we wouldn't have been able to afford it. I don't remember exactly how much, 6 or 8 root canals in one sitting. Just because, oh, insurance is almost up. So let's knock them all out real quick. Because we wouldn't have been able to afford it. It's probably why I hate the dentist now, but damn it. It really bothers the shit out of me, the healthcare thing. At what point is it just neglect?
Abroad, what is one time that made you realize that America really messed you up?
Okay, I have another one. When I was studying in Spain, we had our orientation the first week of classes, and our program director sat us all down and had to explain our health insurance to us and how it worked. And basically it worked that you paid like €1,000 for the semester and you got health insurance, like free health insurance for everything, covered everything. And she had to sit us down and she had this big group of Americans in a room and she was like, listen, if you are sick, go to the doctor. And we were all like, yes. And she was like, no, like Americans don't go to the doctor. You won't go to the doctor when you're sick. So I have to tell you every year to do this. And still kids will just put off going to the doctor because you're used to just like pushing through illness. No matter what it is, I don't care if it's a cold, go to the doctor. And she had to actually like spell that out for us.
What's a really weird thing that your body does that you're not sure anybody else's body does?
Since I was a little kid, I've been able to do this with my hands. Basically, I can crack all my fingers all the time, anytime. Watch.
I can only do that with one of my fingers.
It starts hurting after a while, but yeah.
Rich Mom Starter Pack, Brooklyn edition. So you and your indie movie director husband are loaded. You're too intellectual for Manhattan. So you move to Brooklyn. Here's what you'll need to fit in with all the other rich moms. Firstly, you're going to need something subtle, like a $15 million townhouse in Park
Subtle?
You'll need a car. You're going to get an Audi.
You're going to need a man.
Even though you're actually from Westchester, you identify as European. You'll need 40 pairs of Golden Goose, so all the other moms know you're casual. By casual, I mean you spend $530 on a pair of sneakers that look like they got run over. Tons of Ula Johnson. Don't actually actually make your kids lunches. Just get Sakara delivered and redistribute it in little stasher bags.
Yeah, little
Don't forget, you're
stasher
raising little
bags.
Persimmon and Aristotle is vegan from birth. Starbucks is for tacky Manhattanites who make all your coffee in a Chemex and then carry it around in an Ember mug, plastic shaming everybody. Now, of course,
Jesus
you wouldn't
Christ.
be caught dead in the Hamptons, but you absolutely must get a converted modern farmhouse in Hudson. It's way more chic.
It's way more chic.
If you're
Hey, absolutely hilarious. 100% true on the American side. Sad. Very, very sad that it takes us getting the fuck out of the machine to actually be able to look around and say, you know what? Maybe I've been lied to. Maybe I've been swindled. Maybe I've been bamboozled. Maybe I've been taken. Everything's been taken away from you. Like, legitimately, we don't look at shit. We look at what happens in our hometown. That's why a lot of us never even leave our hometowns. Get more worldly, Americans. That's my challenge to you. Get more worldly. Go somewhere that's not Canada or Mexico. Take a little trip. Jump over to the damn Bahamas. Go to Small Hope Bay Resort on Andros Island, a tiny little all-inclusive resort. I've been heaven on earth. Escape. Go somewhere. Go to Sri Lanka. Go to the leopard safaris over in Udawalaway in Yala National Park. Like, do things. Run away from the normal life for a while. You'll see that the normal life is not exactly what they make it out to be. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure you get over and show TikTok news some love. Smash the like button if you liked it, the dislike button, but I won't believe you. Check out the other video over there. Till the next one on Highly Combustible. You guys be happy, healthy, safe. Love you to the moon and back. Peace.